Welcome back to On Point. I'm Jordan Henry. The COVID 19 pandemic has created a golden opportunity for social media influencers to jumpstart their careers or grow their businesses. Not all of these influencers are celebrities, some are students here at our home base of California State University, Northridge. During the pandemic, many students run their own businesses through social media accounts. They're selling to a captive audience. In one Harris poll, roughly half of U.S. adults reported they've been using social media more than when the pandemic began. YouTube and Facebook have both reported more than 60% increase usage since March 2020, according to Statista. But why has the pandemic driven so many to social media to launch careers? Beatrice Anoh has more on the story.
Thank you, Jordan. Two people have some things in common. They are social media influencers and they're from California State University, Northridge. First, we have Jayde Stamm, founder of CBJ Studio. He is majoring in marketing and he makes and also produces contents for beginners and novice on social media. Second, we have Gabriela Linares. She majored in Spanish language, graduated in spring 2020. Gabriela has an holistic self business and she sells candle, crystal, and things that help people connect with their inner self. Plus, we have the Chief Executive Officer of Viral Nation, Joe Gagliese. He is an entrepreneur, marketing strategist, consultant with long experience in representing top influencers' talent. Welcome, guys, and thank you so much for accepting to share your knowledge and your experience.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
How are you?
We're amazing.
Okay, beautiful.
Jayde hasn't stopped smiling since he came on the screen, so I can already tell he's a happy guy.
Fantastic. I'm very happy to have you here, Jayde. Now, were you in business before the pandemic?
I was in business before the pandemic. Absolutely.
What went through your mind when the pandemic hit?
Initially, when the pandemic hit, I thought I was going to be taking a break, but a lot of people still had events that they were still going to go ahead and throw. So I still went ahead and produced just cakes and desserts that were already on our baking schedule for that year. The only thing that really stopped was in-person classes for workshops.
Okay. And before we continue, what is CBJ? Because I tried to find the definition and I couldn't find it. For what does it stand for?
So CBJ stands for Cakes by Jayde. That was our company initially. And then I decided to rebrand into CBJ Studios because we were doing a lot more stuff than just cakes.
And how was it before the pandemic? How were you doing?
Business was great. Definitely never caught much sleep. So I would be in between work, school, and then everything else was CBJ Studio related. And then the pandemic hit and school kind of slowed down. My job closed down, and then the orders for CBJ kind of slowly dissipated because no one was having events, any new events.
I'm sorry to hear that. I can understand we all went through that. Now, Gabriela, how were you feeling? You know, what was going through your mind also 1 month after you launched your business online?
For me, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. This is the first time where I get to have my very own business and be behind every single aspect of it. So when the pandemic hit, we were also in a position where we didn't know whether the business was going to flourish or the business was going to have to come to stop. So we did have to do a little bit of rebranding. We had to do a little bit of just planning on how to use our social media as our best possible. And we are so blessed that we were able to make it flourish. So actually the pandemic in a sense has been a blessing for us because the business has been doing way better now than before. And I think it's because we went out of our comfort zone and we just took on social media as much as we could.
Wow.
We recently launched a website. So now the way that we do sales is through Instagram on live sales every other Saturday. And we also have a website where people can come and just get to know a little bit more about what Sobre la Luna is about.
That's fantastic, Gabriela. You telling me everything at once. Let me ask Joe to
Sure.
define what's an influencer. What do we call influencer? Since you are on the other side, since you deal with with them daily, please tell us the definition of who can we call influencers?
Well, influencers have been around since the beginning of time. That's how the world was built, right? Some people could argue that Jesus was an influencer. Some people could argue that some of the worst people in history were influencers. Um, and what's now happened is that's become much, much easier to expand. So because of the internet, because of social media, because of all these things, it's easier for people like Jayde and Gabriela to, connect with more people than they would have been able to in an old school environment where Jayde would have had to have gone out and gone door to door to figure out how to get people to buy the cakes and, figured out grassroots, et cetera. But we've now, socials created an ability for people to put content out there and be searchable for people who are interested in it. Yeah. And my definition of an influencer, quite frankly, isn't necessarily someone who has 10 million followers like the people I represent. But an influencer can have 100 followers, 200 followers. I think people have lost the understanding that influencing 100 people is a lot of people. If you put 100 people in a room and you're telling them something and they're listening, I think that's a power.
You guys are going ahead. You are answering my question, and I don't want to interrupt you because whatever you're saying is very, very, very interesting. And that's what we want to know. There's no difference between one person who has like 100 followers compared to another one who have maybe 2,000 or so. Everybody is influencer one way or the other, right?
Yes.
Now, when do you choose to follow or to brand this one compared to the other one? Because you cannot take care of everybody. When do you decide to follow, to make the difference?
Viral Nation would predominantly work with influencers who create enough revenue to justify a career. So, influencers who are generally, over 500,000 people following them in a specific niche, all the way up to Viral Nation represents talent that have, 45, 50 million people who follow them, right? But where Viral Nation becomes powerful is we're able to, just like an athlete, develop their career on social media to be fruitful, right? So that they can live off of that as their occupation. So that's where Viral Nation would generally step in to do that.
That's fantastic. So just before I go back to our two guest influencers, tell us, how can the decision come about? You see what they're doing online and you come in and say, oh, we're going to follow this one according to what they produce, or what is your reasoning? What goes through your mind as well before you decide to follow such influencer or compared to the other one?
I think what our two wonderful entrepreneur guests have in common is that they've figured out that they are making themselves and their brand an influencer together in order to drive through and grow their businesses, right? There are influencers who, could be like Jayde, but they don't have a business. Their business is their personality. It's their looks. It's their ability to do something. It's their comedy, et cetera, right? So Viral Nation will generally work with influencers when it comes to their brand, their personal brand, not necessarily a business. But I want to give a lot of credit to what Jayde and Gabriela are doing is they're building their online presence in a way that's affecting their business. So they're figuring out a different way to monetize what they're doing in a way that I think is the future of small business and the future of startups.
Okay. Again, you anticipating my questions, but I love it. I love it because you guys have a lot to say, and that's what we want. Now, can you tell us if the pandemic has driven more people to launch their own business than before?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a large uptick in small business. Now, keeping in mind, I'm connected to the small business community through things of this nature, through my residency at University of Toronto, et cetera. The brands that I work with on a daily basis are the Disneys and the Match.com, the big brands, right? But what we're actively doing at Viral Nation is figuring out ways to empower young people. I'll give you an example. One of the things that a number of companies are doing, and in collaboration with governments, is they're giving people the tools necessary to build their businesses on social media and Shopify, and et cetera, to help them be able to create. And these two wonderful examples we have here today emulate what you need to do to be successful in a startup world today.
Okay, fantastic. Our reporter, Eva Lang, has an inside look into what it takes to make a successful influencer.
Successful influencers look at their online presence as a business, not just a hobby. In fact, deciding what platform to primarily live on is the first big business decision. Many musicians choose YouTube for their music videos. Dancers often start with TikTok because it usually features choreography. The expenses for an influencer are very low. Nominal equipment is required. Just a ring light like this one costs $40 on Amazon. To build their business, many influencers will hold giveaways. They'll get sponsorship deals and then post discount codes for products. The most successful influencers live by the motto, stay on brand. The more engagement an influencer has with their followers, the more likely they are to build a platform that they can monetize. Reporting in Los Angeles, I'm Eva Lang.
Now, Joe, what do you think about the inside look and everything that she said?
Although the cost of entry of becoming an influencer is nominal or free, the work ethic and the time that comes along with it is much more than some people think. And I think both of these guys will attest to that. Becoming an influencer may cost, $40 for the light and the camera, and, but the amount of time you have to learn how to edit, the amount of time you have to learn what's trending, the amount of effort you have to put into content and ideating and all those things. Choosing influencer as a career, whether for your business or for you, is a full-time commitment. And if you take it lightly or do it as a hobby, you won't really get much from it. It's really a battle of consistency and brawn, and especially what I tell people at the beginning, and these guys will attest to it, is it's embarrassing for some people at the beginning because you're creating these videos for no one. You're creating this content that took you hours and hours and hours to edit, and you're posting it on YouTube and 35 people are seeing it, right? So there's this humility that I think some of the best influencers I work with have, and they believe in themselves. And there's a lot more to it intrinsically than financially. And I don't think people give people enough credit for what goes into creating that success.
Thank you so much for sharing. We were all nodding because we were in agreement, right? Gabriela, Jay, tell me, he was right here. The amount of editing or work that you put after you have produced your video must be something else, but we have no idea. So, Jayde, tell us how you started on social media.
Oh, so initially, I was given business cards for my company. My friends got me business cards, and this was around 2016, 2015. So I kind of already known that in order for anything to happen, I would need an audience of some sorts. And the best way to create your own audience would be via Facebook or Instagram. So I actually started on Facebook by posting like free cake services for people just to build some resume, build some rapport amongst my community. And then from there, we had a Facebook page. And then naturally, I transitioned over to Instagram, where most of my demographic is at right now.
Between Facebook page and Instagram, tell me again why did you tilt to Instagram? Or what's the difference? What makes the difference, and what is your favorite?
So I tilted to Instagram, I think, because Facebook just became a sort of a nasty political playground at some point, heavily. So I decided to go somewhere where it was a little laissez-faire, where people were just posting their everyday stuff. Plus, I was on the platform too. So because I was spending time on that platform, I just decided to continue on with my business on that platform as well.
And you have no regret?
No, not at all, because I can always switch back and forth. That's the thing. We've kept our Facebook audience while also keeping our Instagram audience.
Fantastic. But you're still happy with so between both, which one generates more money?
It actually depends. For cake services, Facebook will generate the most money. I think the selling platform is much easier and more familiar versus Instagram. With Instagram, I can sell more of our merchandise, products, or quick stuff like cookies and do giveaways as far as that goes.
So do you make two different videos for two different platforms, or you use the same one for the two platforms?
I definitely recycle. So
Yeah.
everything that goes on this CBJ Instagram will go on the CBJ Facebook.
So Jayde, can I ask a question to Jayde? Jayde,
Yeah, of course.
do you not find, like, I've been working on a kind of a special project at Viral Nation. Do you not find that your Instagram page is now becoming more important than the website in terms of the validity that people are looking for when they're looking through, like, what types of stuff does he do? What stuff has he done in the past? What are people saying about him? I have a strong feeling that the next few years, the Instagram page of a brand is where everyone's going to go to check before they make that transaction on Facebook or your website or make that call, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I always thought of Instagram being like my brick and mortar. Like, you know, when you go to a bakery, you have your glass case of desserts where everyone can kind of choose what they like to kind of get the sense of what it is. And that's how we've set our Instagram up, is for it to be that brick and mortar glass case where you can see this is what we offer, this is what we have. To try and get them over to the website or to Facebook. With Facebook, there's more scrolling involved, hence the familiarness to it, where you have to already be following that page to see everything they've been doing.
Okay. So before we go to Gabriela, tell us again what are the major changes that you did before the pandemic and after the pandemic? One, and after the changes between Facebook and Instagram, because you said you recycle. So if you can tell us a little bit about the recyclement, what do you mean by that?
So as far as recycling, a lot of stuff Facebook will see more of, like a lot of cakes. I'll keep Facebook more updated with the cakes as they're made versus with Instagram. The content is more curated. So at one point we want to post a cake and then want to post a cookie or just whatever pattern we have. By the time we post a certain cake on Instagram, it would have already been on Facebook 3-4 cakes ago.
I see. So that's your strategy, or you have other strategies behind to make it work for you?
Honestly, the strategy has been just throwing out content for Facebook, but for Instagram, I think the strategy is being more consistent and, like Joe said, showing what we're doing in a sense. So I'm not posting as much on Instagram as I would on Facebook.
I see. All right. So Gabriela, how are you? I know I asked you that already, but I feel like asking it to you again. You started your company just before the pandemic. So how was your business doing before?
We actually started in 2019, but it was a different way. We used to do events, it was in person. All the exchanges was mainly in person. Social media was just a way for people to come see kind of like aesthetics, see the products that we offer, how will they look on their homes and stuff like that. Because a lot of people not focus a lot on how will these items be looking into a picture if I was to take it for Instagram and stuff. So that's the way that Instagram was working for us. We were doing farmers market, we were doing art walks, just anything where we could go and connect with people. But when the pandemic hit last year, we were just kind of like put a stop, and we just had to really think on the way of how to bring Sobre la Luna into social media in a way where we could sell. And that's when we had our first live sale, which was on April. It was completely out of my comfort zone because I was so used to having the human interaction where if we're talking about the meaning of crystals, or if they were asking me for a candle that could help them relax or something to give them a little bit more of energy, you just go more into depth into the metaphysical qualities of that item. And now it's a little bit different because now I just talk to a screen, and I have to wait to see the replies back.
Okay.
But I've been so lucky to see my business flourish, and we are just continue to growing.
During and after the pandemic because we are exiting. So, okay, I'm
Yes.
happy to hear that. Now, how many platforms do you have?
We have 4. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we just recently jumped into TikTok.
Okay. So, which platform do you prefer and which one gives you the best analysis of what you're doing?
Definitely Instagram. I don't know if it's because we've been on Instagram a little bit longer than the rest of the platforms, but I just get more engagement on Instagram. And I tend to try to post different content on each one. Most of the time, we also recycle posts that we have done on Instagram on any other social medias, but Instagram always gets the best attention.
So, on a business side, may I ask you how much is your monthly payment? How much you make? Is it good? Compared to
I
the,
roughly, I
compared to the
roughly
other platforms?
Yeah, I roughly estimate from our Instagram account is anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Okay.
Yes.
So, how do you grow your followers?
We also have been jumping into doing giveaways. We try to do just create content where we want our followers to engage, tag a friend, just anything where they can feel they feel related to the content. And I have noticed that the more relatable content we post, the more followers we get.
Okay, that's good. So, do you also feel like you need to protect your brand? How do you do that?
I do feel that way. Just last year, I finally did all the legal procedures for the business. So now in California, there can be another Sobre la Luna, so it will be just us. We just wanted to make sure that we had taken care of all the legal stuff, in because the idea is to open a physical space once the pandemic is completely over. So we wanted just to have that already set aside for when that
Okay,
part comes.
fantastic. Okay, Joe, what do you think about their strategies?
I think it's brilliant. I'd love to give them some advice as if I can. Fun fact, Jayde, when I was 17, I started to get into that show Cake Boss. I don't know if you remember that show. My one of my first girlfriends was like super into that show, and she got me hooked. And I'm like, I can do that. I'm an Italian guy, and believe it or not, I sold 5 custom cakes, and I started my own little cake business out of my parents' house. So I feel you when it comes to the baking stuff. It's hard. It's harder than people think. So commendment on that. When I think about what you guys are doing and what you guys are trying to do, I think there's some really cool things that I can assist you with, just off the top. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but on social media, there's content aggregator pages. So they're not influencers, but for instance, Jayde, there's like cake Instagram pages that have like 2 million followers on them. Gabriela, there's pages that have to do with spirituality. There's pages that have to do with beauty and makeup and design and fat, etc. Those are TV of our generation, and you would be surprised at how low cost activating those pages could be. So imagine, Jayde, for instance, in an example, maybe there's an Instagram page about cakes or about events, and you create a really cool custom piece of content and pay them a couple $100 to post it on their Instagram story, and now they're reaching 200,000-300,000 people. It's a hack that the big brands haven't figured out yet, and I love when young brands like yours find that, because your access to that audience at that rate is such an incredible opportunity. So I'd implore both of you to look at the internet, find audiences that are following these pages, that are related to where your customers are, and figure out cool ways to collaborate with them and get your products on those pages, because that's one of the best ways for you guys to grow fast and get ahead of everyone else in your shoes.
So, Joe, what did you observe since the pandemic regarding all that? What do you have to say about the influencers that you have in your portfolio, for example?
I think that it's made the world realize how important that these people are and how important businesses like theirs are. Because, when people were sitting on their butt at home, running out of things to do on social media, they started to discover the Jaydes of the world. They started to discover the Gabrielas of the world. And I think, it's slowing people down to take a look back at small businesses and cool stuff that these people are doing. Is probably the most exciting piece. And what I can tell you is that large brands and big influencers and et cetera have nothing but benefited from, it was like shaking off the old school, right? Like, everyone was forced into, my grandmother's ordering groceries that are getting delivered to her house. It just sped up the biological clock of technology and brands and people in a way that feeds very well into what these two wonderful young people have been doing. So I think the opportunity is massive, and I think continuing to go down that path is a good one.
Thank you so much, Joe, Gabriela, Jayde, for being willing to share all those information, because a lot of people out there do not know, and we're very happy to have you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your experience and being on the point in your response.
Thank you so much for having me. Jayde and Gabriela, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
I came to CSUN to learn. I came to CSUN to grow. I came to CSUN to prepare. I learned to question, to answer, to encourage. I grew as a mentor, an ally, an advocate. I left CSUN prepared to uplift and embolden, prepared to challenge and inspire, prepared to teach.
I'm Rebecca Milwaukee, and I'm a Matador.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us on KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings. You can also watch us on LA 36 and Santa Clarita Valley Television. For moderator Beatrice Anoh, reporter Ava Lang, and producers Alfonso Henry, Elizabeth Campos, and Justin Gonzalez, I'm Jordan Henry.